This is both my worry and excitement for the future of New Zealand. I'd love to know which of these you relate to and what things that you can see that I can't see. Now soon I've got an upcoming keynote presentation where I'm going to be talking to hundreds of people about the future of New Zealand. And it got me thinking about some of the high level things that I'm worried about when it comes to New Zealand. So from the top, the aging population. I think this is something that we don't talk a lot about, but we can start to see it where the pension costs are so large in New Zealand and we're effectively having to borrow more money every year to help pay for the universal basic income, i.e. the pension for those over the age of 65. Many people will say, no, we don't borrow money to pay for that. But you could argue, well, then why do we need to keep going into debt? That cost keeps increasing. What's that going to mean? So it is a little bit scary when you start thinking about the aging population in New Zealand. Do we have the right infrastructure for them, for people to be able to look after them? Can younger people afford to look after them? Do they understand their parents' financial situations? Have they got it all figured out, or maybe they don't? What's the strain financially and emotionally that that's going to create for households and for families? Do we have enough hospitals? Do we have enough rest care providers? Do we even have enough people that can look after the aging population? These are all answers that I don't know specifically, but from people that I speak to, the concern is real, and I think the underlying answer is we're actually all a little bit worried about it and we don't want to talk about it. And further to that, younger people are having less children. So what's going to be the makeup of New Zealand in the future? It's all stuff that we don't learn a lot about nor get a lot of content about, but that's something that this country is going to have to face as the aging population slowly pass away. My second one is unhealthy people, both mentally and physically. Did you know New Zealand's the third most obese country in the world? That's pretty scary, right? Have a Google of that and fact check it if you want to. That in a nation that is so good at creating foods, a lot of us aren't very healthy. So I think we've got a big challenge to think about what's that going to mean? Again, the cost of healthcare, the issues that that's going to cause down the track, the emotional turmoil that's going to put into households as well. I think a lot of us are ignoring this. You would think that we would be a bit louder about this and figuring out, hey, what are we doing about it? Where's the tax incentives to encourage people to remain healthier? I think the younger generation, younger than I, are a little bit more in tune with this. They're a bit more careful of alcohol. They're a little bit more understanding of mental health challenges and things like that. But they're still showing up in the data as well. They're still struggling with anxiety and depression and things like this. Maybe we're just more aware of it now, but there's still an issue in this country with our fundamental mental and physical health. And that does worry me. And it does worry me how that's going to play out, especially with so many obese people needing forms of care. You could think that's not very PC to talk about that, but let's just look at the data. Well, what are those people going to need? They're going to need access to healthcare. Can they afford it? If not, who's going to pay for it? So I think we've got a coming issue that we're not really facing up to on that front too. I'd encourage all of us to look after our mental and our physical health. I think it does wonders for all of us. We all know that without our health, we have no wealth. So wealth is your health. Please look after yourself out there and encourage others to do the same. The next one is unaffordable housing. Seriously, I think this is why so many younger people are now leaving New Zealand, because they think that they can't buy a house or they can't get what they would like. And I think the baby boomers look at younger people and think, oh, they're just not working hard enough and they're not making sacrifices and they're going on OEs and they're having avocados and whatnot. And they don't really understand the debt bubble that we've created, or the fact that debt to income levels are so high and so much different. Oh, we had such high interest rates. We get that. We hear you, baby boomers. That's cool. But go and research what happened to money when it came off of the gold standard. Go and research the debt to income ratios. Go and research why people are having less children and can't afford to have children, and how prior generations could have a number of children and buy a property and have a single income and things like that. Something broke. Something broke under there. So I think we don't know what that is or how to educate people on that, but we just see the outcome being unaffordable housing. Well, if you have unaffordable housing, but you tell people the Kiwi dream is to own a home, but then the dream can't be achieved, what do you think that's going to do for the spirit of people? That's really, really concerning. And I think that's one of the fundamental issues in this country, the cost of housing. The utility value of a property is a lot lower than what the investment value of it is. We're a nation where we have encouraged wealth generation through bidding up house prices, and now we've got to pay the price for it. And it's pretty scary, because I think we've got to go through that wave. What happens when all the house owners slowly start to sell those as well, and the younger people aren't there to buy them, or the next buyer isn't there? Do we just bring in more immigration to keep trying to prop the country up? Can those people afford to buy those houses? There might be a little bit of a balloon in that property market. However, you have to think that you can't let the voting base have a lower house price for too long, so you're going to try and find ways to keep the bubble going. That's just my hunch, but that's a big concern for people. People are losing hope about their ability to buy a property, and that's going to make them take different actions. The next thing is the fact that we don't seem to have a real clear plan, direction, or strategy. Why not? Ask yourself, do you know what the plan is for New Zealand? The direction we're going? The strategy that we're working to? Oh, we're not a business, man. Chill out. Okay, well, I tell you what, when you have a direction, a strategy, or goals in your life, it's actually a little bit easier. Do you think the All Blacks are just going to the next World Cup to play, to have a bit of fun, to represent the country? No, they're trying to win the thing. They have a direction, they'll be building a strategy, and the goal is to win it. They're not going there just to see if they can put 100 points on Japan. No, they're trying to win it. So I don't know why we don't have a conversation in New Zealand about where are we actually going? What is the plan? Can we get everybody going in the same direction? I often wonder if we go back to unaffordable housing, if we just decided that over the next 10 years we want a joint effort to try and sort out the housing crisis that they call it once and for all, what would all of that direction look like? What would all of that momentum look like? What would we actually do? Who would build the plan, and would we actually go after it? There'd be arguments in the comments right now, oh, we already do that and the government do that. Well, how have they gone with it? How have they gone for it when tens of thousands of young Kiwi people are leaving saying, well, I can't afford to live here anymore. House prices are out the bloody wazoo. It doesn't look like we've solved it, right? So what if we actually had one metric and said, let's have a real good crack at that? What if we got the whole country on board with it? What if it was obesity? What if it was financial literacy? What if it was winning the World Cup and getting everyone in behind it? What if it's getting the All Whites to win the World Cup? We don't seem to have large goals. And individually, what that does for each of us, we become too scared to do it ourselves. What are your large goals? And why don't you have any? Have a think about that. And why is it not okay if a Kiwi does do it and they go and achieve something great and eventually we go, oh yeah, but they had this. Oh yeah, but their family this. Who cares? They've got a goal and they've gone off and done it. There are a lot of successful people in this country, both in sports and outside of sport. You can be one too. What's your potential? What are your goals? Where are you going? What are your kids' goals? What do you want them to achieve? How can you give them the best life? Have some of those conversations. It's okay to do it. Just because we don't do it at a national level doesn't mean that individually we can't set goals for ourselves in order to kick some ass and create better lives for ourselves, our families, our communities, and therefore our country. Set some bloody goals. Sorry, we weren't supposed to be getting into actions, but anyway, we did. Now, the next one sort of wraps a lot of this together, and I think it's that we're financially underprepared for retirement. As an example, in New Zealand, we introduced KiwiSaver, probably way too late. And even then we said, oh, we'll interrupt compounding and you can use it to buy your first home. Because again, we want to try and fix the housing crisis by then getting more people to then bid up prices through money that they should be saving for their retirement. But instead, no, we put it all into property. You could argue that one of two ways, it's good or it's bad. But just think about that. Hey, here's a way to save for your retirement. Oh, but at 37, which is the average age of a first home buyer, halfway to retirement age is 65 in New Zealand, do you know what? Yeah, interrupt it. And now you've only got 3 decades left to save for your retirement because you can put all of that money into your house. One house is not a retirement plan. Again, going back to being underprepared, and the baby boomers, all of their wealth is tied up in property for a lot of them. They can't access it. Now they don't know how to retire. Oh, I don't know if I can live off of the pension because rates and stuff are too expensive. Shit, I hadn't thought about this. No, because we don't think about this stuff. I think we're financially underprepared as a nation for retirement. So have a think about that for yourself as well. But what's that going to mean? What is it going to mean for all these people that go, oh, I'm not worried about that. Who cares? No, that's not for me to think about. Who's going to pay the bill for them? Who's going to pay their healthcare? Who's going to look after them? Who's going to pay the pension? This is confronting and serious stuff. And I think as a nation, we don't want to look too deep into this because it's too confronting. And it's too hard to figure out how we're going to do it. But we've got all of this ahead of us. It's not painting a very good picture for the younger generations, right? But reminder, we're going to get into some stuff that I am excited about for New Zealand as well. Now, the next piece is the infrastructure deficit. If we have a $200 billion infrastructure deficit, once you start adding inflation onto that, all of a sudden, with a 5% inflation rate, which is probably a fair inflation rate for a lack of infrastructure, now all that's going to happen with that infrastructure deficit is it's going to compound and it's going to become more and more because we aren't doing what we think we're going to need to do into the future. But again, because we don't have a plan, then we don't know, well, what's then the population going to be of the country? Where are we going to end up? What infrastructure do we really need? Where are people going to live? Maybe this plan is out there and I don't know it. I'm missing it. Maybe there is a plan and I don't know what it is, but it just seems like we do have an infrastructure deficit and we're not really getting going on it. who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for that? And how come it's such a big deficit? Why do we keep borrowing to pay for the pension, but we're not borrowing to pay for infrastructure that we know we need to do? The future generation are going to wake up. Like, our kids are probably going to come into an environment and go, whoa, how come we have to inherit so much debt to keep paying for pensions, but we didn't build any stuff? What were you guys doing? What was the plan? We didn't really have a plan. Oh, wow. Now we have to pay for it all. So we've got to think about this stuff. And I think we're too scared to do it. We do have, I think, an infrastructure committee. There is an acceptance that we have an infrastructure deficit. And I think it's undercooked at 200. It's probably 400, 600, probably $1 trillion worth of infrastructure by the time we've finished doing it that we're going to need. But if the country's going to continue to grow, well, then something's going to have to be done about it. Anyway, those are some of the main things that I'm a little bit concerned about when it comes to the future of New Zealand. I'll do a part 2 and I'll go through some of the things that I'm excited about when it comes to New Zealand, because I didn't think these were going to take me so long to get through. But in the part 2, we'll look at the things that I'm excited about when it comes to New Zealand.